If you overthink even the smallest decisions, you're going to recognize this instantly. Someone asks you a simple question, and your brain just refuses to answer. Not because you don't know, but because everything suddenly feels like it matters. You pause, not because you don't know, but because something inside hesitates. Your brain starts running through possibilities faster than you can even notice. You think about outcomes, reactions, and what this small decision might lead to. Meanwhile, everyone else seems to decide instantly without even thinking twice, and that contrast makes you question why something so small feels so difficult. So you delay, step back, or avoid answering just to escape the pressure. Not because you don't care, but because your mind is doing too much. When you're deciding, your brain isn't just choosing, it's trying to predict everything. It starts imagining what could go wrong, even in the smallest situations. Not loudly, but quietly, like a background process you don't fully notice. So instead of one simple choice, you suddenly feel 10 different possible outcomes, and your brain treats all of them like they matter equally, even when logically, you know they probably don't matter that much. This is where it gets interesting because it's not really about the decision itself. It's about the feeling of getting it wrong and what that might mean. Some people move on quickly, but your brain holds onto that possibility longer, almost like it's trying to protect you by slowing everything down. If you're like this, it usually didn't just start randomly one day. At some point, small decisions probably felt more important than they actually were. Maybe getting something wrong had consequences that stayed with you longer than expected. So your brain slowly learned to be more careful, more controlled, more aware. Not in a loud way, but in a quiet, constant background pressure. Now even simple questions can feel like they carry hidden weight. It's not about the question itself. It's about what your brain attaches to it. A small choice starts to feel like it says something about you. Like choosing wrong might reflect something deeper about who you are. And that's why your mind doesn't treat it like something small anymore. It becomes more noticeable when someone is waiting for your answer in real time. You can feel the pause stretching longer than it actually is. And suddenly, it's not just a choice, it's a moment you're being watched in. So your mind starts thinking about how your answer will be perceived. Will it sound right? Will it make sense? Will it feel acceptable? Even if the other person isn't thinking that deeply about it at all. People might see hesitation and assume you're unsure or just overthinking again. But inside, it feels more like pressure than confusion. Like you're trying to choose the version of yourself that makes the most sense. And that's why even simple answers don't come out easily sometimes. After a while, it stops being about decisions and starts becoming part of you. You begin to see yourself as someone who just can't decide easily. And that identity quietly shapes how you approach even the smallest situations. So before you even choose, your brain is already preparing for difficulty. It expects hesitation, it expects pressure, and it acts accordingly, which makes the whole experience feel heavier than it actually needs to be. Then comes the loop, where thinking leads to more thinking without resolution. You go over the same options again, but nothing feels clear enough, and the longer it goes on, the harder it becomes to just choose something. Not because you can't decide, but because your mind won't settle. But here's something most people don't realize about this pattern you're experiencing. It's not really about being bad at decisions the way it looks from outside. It's more about your brain trying to stay in control of uncertain outcomes. So instead of choosing freely, it tries to choose perfectly every single time. And that's where the pressure actually starts to build without you noticing. Because now every small choice feels like it needs to be the right one. While other people are okay with being slightly wrong, your brain resists that. It treats small uncertainty like something that needs to be fully resolved first. But real life doesn't work that way, and your mind keeps searching anyway. That's why it feels exhausting, even when nothing serious is actually happening. And once you notice this pattern, something small starts to shift inside you. Not instantly, but enough to see what's actually happening more clearly. You begin to realize the pressure isn't coming from the situation itself. It's coming from how much meaning your mind is attaching to the choice. And that awareness alone slightly reduces the weight you were feeling before. Because now it's not automatic anymore. you can actually observe it happening. You notice the pause, the thoughts, and the urge to get it exactly right. But instead of getting pulled into it, you just stay there for a moment. And for the first time, the decision doesn't feel as heavy as usual. Not easy, but no longer as overwhelming as it used to feel. So maybe this was never about struggling with decisions the way it seemed. Maybe it's just how your mind learned to deal with uncertainty over time. Not broken, not weak, just wired a little more carefully than others. People might call it overthinking, but that's only part of the story. What they don't see is how much your brain is trying to protect you, even in moments that don't actually need that level of protection anymore. And once you see that clearly, something about it feels a little different. Not solved, not fixed, but understood in a way it wasn't before. And sometimes, that understanding alone changes how you experience the moment. So tell me, is this really overthinking or something deeper happening underneath?